Hi, my name is Sebastian, and I am a clinical hypnotherapist, the channeler of Theophaz, and also a spiritual coach and teacher. Today, I'd like to talk about the concept I need do nothing. I read it today in A Course in Miracles, and it made me think quite a bit. I'd like to go into it right now. So, I need do nothing. When I first thought of that, I thought, no, how could life be a school? How could life be on this earth worth anything if I needn't do anything? And I began to think about that on my God walk this morning. And the first thing that came up for me was the word need. When God created everything, God didn't need to create. God was everything. God is everything. God desired to create. So that's the first thing to take away from your day, from the burden of life. You don't need to do anything to be acceptable to God. You don't need to be anything to be a child of the universe, of the Spirit. You don't need to do anything to have the power, the grace, the prosperity that God has endowed on you as a child of His own, a creation. You didn't create yourself. You may have created the image you're seeing in the mirror or partially created it, but you didn't create you. And you also didn't create your talents. You may have nurtured them, you may have honed them, but you didn't create them. They were a gift, as are all spiritual things. They are a gift to you and to the world. So I go back to I need do nothing. And I think about the things that I wrestle with on a daily basis. I grew up with a father who was a perfectionist. Now, I'm not condemning my father in any way by saying this. He just, when he was a graphic engineer, and when he would draw something, it had to be perfect, because like if it wasn't perfect, the bridge would fall. Do you see where I'm coming from? So his idea, his thoughts, his gifts were about perfectionism. What he did, what he created, had to be perfect. And unfortunately, he superimposed that in his life, in his children, in his marriage, which dissolved as a result of that. Even the relationship with his children dissolved in some ways because of his need for us to be perfect in his sight. Now, I'm not like talking about perfect in the sight of God. I'm talking about perfect in the sight of somebody human that wanted me to be perfect, wanted me to be an engineer like him and not a singer or a clinical hypnotherapist or anything artistic. He wanted me to use my science knowledge and my brain, which I was good at. I was third in my class. I had a lot of science brain knowledge. I just didn't want to do what he wanted me to do. And that was upsetting to him. My father, however, I have to say, at the very end of his life, realized that the only thing that was important was love, and he shared that with me. And I'm so glad to have been there a day before he passed, or 2 days before he passed, so that I could have that in my soul. But what I wanted to share with you about my dad was that when you grow up with somebody who's expecting perfection, who, if you go to him with something that's imperfect and he looks at you like, no, you didn't do that right, go back and do it again, you weren't good enough, or that isn't good enough, then sometimes you go your whole life thinking you have to please God the way you had to please your father. And I would have to say that there's still, even at 65 years old, there's still a part of me that feels like I have to do something to be loved, to be a child, to be accepted by God, to be atoned for. I need do nothing. I go back to the next thing I was thinking about was how Jesus often said, be like a child. You know, it wasn't asking us to regress from our intelligence. He was asking us to create a relationship of us with the Father as perhaps a baby or a young child with his mother or her mother. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about being a child, a helpless child at first, you know, like dependent completely on mom. I need to do nothing. I'm completely, everything is provided for me. And then as you get a little bit older, you know, mom lets you go off and play. And what do you think about in the day? You don't think about all the chores and the to-do list that you have. You think about the adventures that you might have in that day. You think about the splendor. What interesting thing am I going to find today that is going to dazzle me, that's going to make me happy? That's what my childhood was filled with, even though I didn't grow up wealthy or anything like that. Or I remember like getting together with my friends and like going on hikes and adventures and finding tadpoles and collecting bumblebees and you know, looking for flowers and four-leaf clovers for hours and searching through garbage cans of neighbors who were wealthier and trying to find trinkets that we could take into our cabins that we made ourselves or that we found in the woods half made. Life was an adventure. You need do nothing. I have this spiritual wheel. The wheel is the idea that if you come into the day thinking, I want to be prosperous, and you pretty much have nothing, you're deeply in debt. If you start off simply just thinking, well, I need do nothing, there is no lack in God, and I will be taken care of, you're probably going to fail. Because it's kind of like jumping onto a moving train. Or it's kind of like looking at an apple seed and before it's even planted, thinking you could get apples from it. You know, fully grown apples. There is a logical progression. I often get like I'll see a turtle on my path or something like this, or something crawling very slowly, and I'll think slow and steady wins the race. Slow and steady, Bo, wins the race. And the steadfastness that I need to have is the points on this wheel towards my truth, towards my goal, have to be something that I can truly believe in. Like I might believe in, like if I had nothing, And I've been to the place where I've been deeply in debt and, pretty much wasn't making much money at all. And if somebody would have told me, tomorrow you'll be wealthy, what I might have done was thought, well, I believe that in God, and I'll go out and get a lottery ticket. And then when I didn't win, think God doesn't love me or God isn't taking care of me. That's the kind of thing that I don't want you to do. I need do nothing doesn't mean that. It means getting to the place where we can really believe in the next step forward authentically. One of the things maybe I thought of was, if I get up and I work hard, I can achieve whatever I'm reaching for. If I used to love to plant gardens. If I plant the seeds today, I'm going to have flowers or vegetables or a tree eventually. If I sow the seeds, if I till the ground, if I protect the area of my wants and desires by plucking up the weeds, the things that I don't need, the lack of belief, if I pluck those up, then I will definitely have more energy to achieve. Now, the next thing that I think that is really imperative that you do is clear out the negatives. One of the things when you're planting a garden is you hoe up. Say you started with a patch of really hard ground that had grass and weeds in it, and rocks and stones. You'd have to make that ground receptive to the seed, or good for that seed. So you have to pull out the weeds. You'd have to hoe it. You would have to rake out the tears, the rocks, the things that would keep good from growing in it. And you may even have to add fertilizer or food before you planted that. And then, of course, once you planted the seed, you'd have to water it. And after you water the seeds, there's a waiting. And that waiting is the I need to do nothing. Because you can't grow that seed. The universal force of the universal law behind the seed is what grows it. So I think the we do nothing is use the laws of the universe, express and do what's right in front of you. But you don't have to carry the burden of the world or the heavy burden of achieving what should be 5 years from now. You need to do the next step toward it. Today, I hope you can do this. I hope you can recognize what you want or what you need in the world. And sometimes you can get to what you need by knowing what you don't want. And so if you're having trouble figuring out what is it that I do want, think about what you don't want, and then go to the opposite of that. So find out what you do want. Recognize that all you have to do is plant the seed in the fertile ground. And the fertile ground is the ground of spirit, is the ground of love. It's the ground of an empty mind. And I'm not talking about a mind that has no knowledge. I'm talking about a mind that has no clutter. It has no rocks. It has no tears. And it is a place where I can plant a thought and believe that when I plant that thought in the fertile ground of spirit or God, that God, the maker of all things, will do what I can't do, will grow the seed. I hope that helps you today. And I have some people that want to tell you a little bit about how to get rid of that clutter if you're having a struggle with that. Have a listen, and I would love if you bought the book or any of the books that I've written. Just look me up on Amazon, or please subscribe below or write me a comment and like the video to get more. Thanks. Have a great day. With the brain, with the mind, with a dream. And you need to have your brain clear for that dream to express itself.
Can get really busy taking care of my home, 2 careers, and my family, when your mind can't seem to get quiet to rest. That's when you need to use zeroing out.
I never thought I could quiet my mind in only 3 minutes. Zeroing out works.
I can't believe how much zeroing out has helped me reduce stress. You've got to try it.
Work for me can get time-consuming and stressful at times, but zeroing out has really changed the way I look at my schedule and my time.
Such a step above any other book I've ever seen about this topic, and it's such a simple technique, and I'm able to do it by myself, which I love. So